Alright, so today I've got a Marantz 2225 up here. This is brought to me by a friend of mine who lives down in Miami. Said it sounded kind of lackluster and said he got hardly any FM stations, said the signal meter didn't move. I loaned him while I'm working on this a Marantz 2230B that I had just gone through and replaced all the electrolytics, even though most of them are still good. They're getting at the age now where this is something you just do for longevity and for resale. I don't bother recapping my own stuff until it actually needs it, but in any event. Went through, I'd replaced all the caps on that, known trouble making small signal transistors, and he said that thing sounds great. So I got his and I started injecting some square waves in to check frequency response, and I changed out most of the electrolytics, in fact all the electrolytics in the output stage, and then I went through the tone board. Whoever the guy was he bought it from had recapped the regulated power supply and one on the tone board, which is the only one you can get to without taking the front panel off and pulling the board out. So it was kind of a haphazard job. After I did that, the thing perked up quite a bit, sounded a lot better. And I went through and aligned the FM, and now it works really well, gets a lot of stations. And that's without an antenna. I just have a jumper clip lead hooked to the antenna terminal. It was just out of alignment, and it was quite a bit out, which is unusual. Usually when you align an FM tuner, you just make tiny little movements, all it takes. If there's anything more than that, you have to start looking for malfunctions, but I think somebody had been in there and twiddling things trying to make it better. Without the proper test equipment, your chances of making it better are nowhere near as good as your chances of making it worse. In any event, sounds better, FM's working, but the AM, doesn't work at all. This is AM, and it's completely silent across the entire band. So we're going to take a look at that and see what we think the problem is, and dig in. Okay, so I've got the usual clip lead I use to ground my meter to the chassis, and I'm just going to hook it to a metal piece on there. And we are going to look at our voltages going into the P100 tuner module. Now, switching from AM and FM is just done by applying voltage to the appropriate stage. So if you look here on this pin, and I get good contact, you'll see we have 13.68 volts. And on this pin, which feeds AM, we have nothing. So I switch to AM, we lose our voltage on the FM feed pin, and we should get our voltage here. But we're only seeing 7.66 volts. Now that's not enough. We need 12, 13 volts. I believe it's 14 volt regulated supply that feeds the AM and FM. So something in the tuner module here is pulling it down. Now I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to take a look at the schematic. I'll tell you what I think it is and what we're going to do. Alright, so our AM DC voltage is fed in here at J107. So that should be 14 volts. And something is really pulling it down. So we're going to take a look on the tuner module. We're going to look at R114, which is 330 ohms. And we're going to see what the voltage looks like on the other side of that. We're going to take a look and see if we have a short to ground here. I don't think we do. But the other thing we're going to want to look at that's on this line is this integrated circuit. So we're going to look at pins 2 and 3 on H104. We want to see what's pulling our voltage down. So we have 7.66, I believe, here. Now we're going to take a look at R114. And we'll look at the passenger side of that and see if we have a short to ground here. And we will look at the voltages on pins 2 and 3 on this integrated circuit. Alright, so let's turn this thing on. I'm going to work around the camera here. I'll probably kick it a few times. old school or otherwise. All right, so as we saw before, we have 7.78 going in. So our 114 is right here. So on this side, we have our 7.75, and on the other side of that, 2.6, 2.7 volts. Well, that's why that's not working. And then if we look at our integrated circuit here, we have the same 2.7 volts at pins 2 and pins 3. Now I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to see if we have a short to ground where that capacitor may be giving us problems. I don't think we do, but okay, that's discharging. All right, I think that's sufficient. So let's go to ohms and look at the other side of this resistor. And you can see that's 1.5K and climbing. I think it's our integrated circuit. I think that's what's giving us our problems, and we're going to have to change that out. Now I do have one, but it necessitates pulling the entire module up, so we're going to have to tape off this tuner string, because as I've mentioned before, I'd rather have my gum scraped than restring a tuner. I don't know why, it's just one of those things. Okay, so what I generally do is I try to tune it to some place where I get to both these screws, and I have marked a black line on top of this tuning pulley. So I'm going to loosen the screws, and I have a piece of duct tape handy. So what we're going to do, we're going to pull this off, put it right here, and just tape it into place, just like this. And this should keep tension on it, keep it from moving. Now we can take the 4 screws out of here and lift this module up and change out that integrated circuit. Okay, so I have the tuner module lifted up. I'm going to unsolder the pins on the integrated circuit. Get ready to laugh. I got my old man visor on because I can't see anything without it anymore. It'll happen to you. So, here we go. Okay. I'm bending the pins up as I go along here. Some of them were bent over at the factory to hold the chip on before it was soldered. Okay, got this handy dandy little IC puller I didn't use for years, but it actually works pretty well. So we're going to reach down in here, and there's our old IC. Okay, so it came out like this, and pin 1 is in this corner. Now I have a pull that I got from a carcass I bought from a guy probably within the last couple of years. So we're going to stick this in and see how it does. Now, trying not to move the tuner shaft even though I marked it. Okay, I'm going to get a set of hemostats, and I'm going to put the chip I took out of the way, because boy, if I put the old one back in, I would be really unhappy. Okay, so let's see if we can get this in. Okay, that looks pretty good, except I don't see the pins down here. Okay. Let's see. I need to take a look at this. For some reason, I'm not seeing, there's a lot of wax under here, which I assume is here for a reason, so I didn't want to take it out. I think it's impeding the pins from all coming through here. Let's take a look. Oh, they look okay. Get this wax out of here. I'm not sure why they put this wax in, but I'm pretty sure there was a reason or they wouldn't have done it, so I don't want to remove it. Anyway, let's get this in. All right, that feels like it's seated a little better. Oh yeah. Okay, so now I can see all the pins through there, and we're going to solder that in and see if it made any difference. And if it didn't, I will not post this video. Anyway, where's my solder? Okay. All right. Okay, that looks pretty good, except for this one. And I want to reflow. Okay, looks good, no solder bridges, and this one. Okay, that looks pretty good. But I think I'm going to replace that capacitor just because I'm here. I've never had one that didn't show shorted. That showed shorted after you energize it, but be my luck. All right, so let's see. This is negative faces the back. Silk screen is correct. 47 microfarads, 25. All right, so we'll replace that. Here we go. So a lot of people are complaining about supply chain issues, and they've been hitting us in the electronic service industry as well. So I started buying parts by the hundred. Therefore, I am now part of the problem. I just don't want to get caught short. I am, however, willing to share with my fellow techs, and occasionally I'll get a call saying, hey, do you have any of these? So that's how I justify it. Okay, negative facing the back, looks good. All right, let me give those a haircut and we'll see if we did any good. Okay. All right, let me just put these two screws in to hold this down. Have to be careful when you're putting screws back in not to pinch wires. Like a lot of things, please don't ask me how I know this. Okay, so. All right, so I have to solder this wire back on. I had to desolder it because it wasn't long enough and I needed to get the back side of this board. Okay. I like to roll the solder up after I'm done because I've had to get in the sets. Haven't shorted anything out yet, but I know my luck. Can't hold forever. All right, so let's see, like I said, if we did any good here. I need to rerun our ground. So, okay. So we're gonna have to turn this on, check the voltage, and see if it's any better. All right, we have 13.6 volts now. Well, that doesn't sound very good. Again, I don't know if that chip's good or not. So I'm gonna hook the tuner back up and we'll see if I get anything. It's not looking good though. All right, so when I left off with the Marantz 2225, we had replaced the IC and it fixed the voltage problem we were having. Remember, we had very low supply going to the tuner board. And the chip I replaced it with was a pull from an unknown tuner that I had gotten. Unfortunately, it was apparently bad because I ordered a couple from eBay and I put one in and the tuner now works fine. I had already put it all back together and it's on its way back to its owner. So I can't really show you anything, but I did want to tell you what the resolution was. That integrated circuit was bad. And while we don't like to buy certain semiconductors from eBay, like transistors, where counterfeiting is rampant, it's not as big a problem with ICs because they either do what they're supposed to do or they don't. And if they don't, they're not going to sell many counterfeits. So anyhow, that was what the resolution of that trouble was. The integrated circuit, which is essentially the AM tuner on a chip, was bad. Replacing it cured the problem. Okay, so I'm going to sign this off here, and as always, I like giving back to the community that has given me so much. Thanks a lot, folks.